Throwables in Helldivers are kinda like factions in Fallout. What do I mean by that? Well, it's a rite of passage that every Fallout fan will find one or two factions that they really, really like. Maybe a bit too much. And once that happens, they will defend them with their life, spending countless hours arguing over which set of pixels are the best. And you can normally tell a lot about a person based on who they sided with. Did you pick the NCR or Minutemen? You're so boring, you make water look like a 100-year-old exotic wine in comparison. Did you pick the Brotherhood or Legion? You are incredibly racist. There's nothing else to that statement, that is it. Did you pick Yes Man? You are a complete shitlord. And I love you. Same goes here, because people get weirdly attached to their throwable of choice. I'm no exception, gas grenades and thermite all the way, baby. But then you also have incendiary enjoyers, stun enthusiasts. Hell, there are some people who somehow unironically enjoy the seekers or high explosives. Those same people also probably like penis up their ass, but hey, nothing wrong with that. Some stuff is obviously more popular, but everything has at least a few people who like it. With one exception, because genuinely, does anybody like the throwing knives? Actually, no, better question. Has anybody even used the throwing knives? I think in my 570-ish hours playing Helldivers 2, no, I have never been late before. How can you tell? I have maybe seen 3 other people run them besides me, and there has to be a reason for that, so, let's talk about them, I guess. The K2 throwing knife was introduced in the Viper Commando's Warbond, being the first, and as of recording, still, the only throwable that isn't a grenade of some kind. I mean, I guess the Pyrotech is technically a firework, but it functions very much like a grenade. Whereas the throwing knives are knives that you throw. Pretty self-explanatory how they work. It's a lobbed projectile that will hurt whatever it comes into contact with, and each knife deals 250 damage, penetrates medium armor, is completely silent, and they by far have the highest capacity out of anything else in its category. That being 20, which trust me, still isn't enough. What's even crazier to me is that you used to only be able to carry 8, which is about as awful as it sounds. Xbox divers are lucky they never had to see the state of some weapons. Do you remember when they removed shrapnel from the eruptor? That was fun. One quick thing to note is that whenever you resupply, be it from a drop or a pack, you will get all 20 knives back. It's not like every other throwable where you only get half. In case it wasn't abundantly clear, you have to look at these a bit differently to the rest of its contemporaries, because it is one of the few grenades that has no demolition force. Technically these aren't grenades, but you know what I mean. So no matter how many knives you chuck down that bug hole, it isn't going away. So I would not recommend just slapping this into your build willy-nilly. But if you happen to be using the explosive primaries, the grenade weapons, a bunch of airstrikes, or just anything else that can fill in for spawner destroying duty, then it is a much more appealing choice. Even then, out of everything else in the no demolition force club, it is still probably the weakest choice. That doesn't mean that they're downright unusable, but well, it's probably just better if I start explaining. You might think that stealth is the best use case for these. It's literally in the flavor text. But let me give you a certified piece of bolt marrow advice. Trademark. That is not how I got the most value. You'll assume that these can help you quietly take down all the enemies on an objective or point of interest, preventing them from being alerted and calling in reinforcements. But no. Because the damage just isn't good enough. Well, okay, it is, but obviously there's a catch. 250 damage with medium penetration is good. Most chaff units will die instantly, no matter where you hit them on the body. But of course, there are outliers. Warriors require a headshot, and Hive Guards can tank 2 headshots, still being alive even after that, but only for a couple seconds. They do bleed out fairly quickly. There are also voteless who just I don't even know. Sometimes they die instantly to a hit to the chest, sometimes they don't. Sometimes I hit them in the arms and legs, and they survive no problem. I know they have 3 different variants, all with different health, but all of them should still die from a single hit regardless, so it's probably just better to go for the head anyway. But the problem is that if you don't instantly kill whatever you hit, you're gonna alert them, and then in turn, they're probably gonna alert every other nearby enemy. I don't know, it was really inconsistent. Sometimes I could hit them with a second knife and nobody else will get aggroed, but sometimes the first knife and just like everybody instantly knows where I am. I don't know, stealth is really inconsistent. What's even worse is that while you're in stealth, you're usually not facing towards the enemies. You're trying to stay outside of their peripheral vision. aka the opposite side of their head. So getting headshots can genuinely be impossible sometimes. Instead, you have to look at these almost like they're a third gun of some kind. I guess that's the best way I could describe it. Because while in combat, I was actually getting some results. When you're fighting enemies, hitting their heads is a lot easier because they are actually looking at you. It's still not the easiest for reasons I'll get into in a sec, but definitely easier. And honestly, I was surprised at the potency. One headshot not only insta-kills all the stuff I just mentioned, but stalkers, devastators, and overseers as well. 2 headshots will kill spewers and scout striders if you hit that weird center mass thing bit, whatever it's actually called. 2 to 4 will behead alpha commandos. It's inconsistent how many it takes. This can be useful if your primary and or secondary are out of ammo as a last resort type thing. But there's one other big strength too, that being stagger. For some reason, these thin, tiny, presumably cheaply made knives have the same amount of stagger force as a shotgun. How, you ask me, I don't know. Meaning, any enemy that you hit will be briefly stunned. Doesn't sound particularly useful, but then you remember you have 20 of these, and that they don't need to be reloaded. Even if you don't hit where you're trying to hit in the head, so long as you hit them at all, they're gonna get staggered. So I found the best case scenario for these was making space. Stalker get too close? Knife. Alpha Commando? Knife. Overseer? Berserker? I am an equal opportunity stabber. This is especially useful if you don't have a primary or secondary that can stagger enemies for you. I found out this was very useful for overseers because they can just casually shrug off hails of bullets and run straight at you, and normally if they get too close, it's just game over because ragdoll mechanics are very fun. But now, one quick toss can let me stop him dead in his tracks, and either run away to make distance or follow it up with a volley of bullets, or hell, even another knife. I even learned that this can let you cancel Alpha Commander charges. It's basically like having a shotgun in your throwable slot. Having a way to reliably stun anything that gets too close is nice. And here's an obscure trick you probably don't know. These can silently disable bot mines. If you throw a knife on one, it just completely disables it, letting you walk on them perfectly fine and not have to blow them up. So I guess they can still kind of be used in stealth, but I think the best way to use them is like I just said. Still, I could see that being a nice bit of utility though. So what, these are some kind of underappreciated gem? Oh, absolutely fucking not. Let's start talking problems. My biggest gripe doesn't even involve the actual stats. They aren't perfect, but there's a much bigger problem. And to help me talk about that, I brought in my close friend Vivzypop to co-write this next segment for me. So, these stupid fucking throwing knives control like a twink riding a dildo, but without any lube. It's not even that fucking funny, but it's really early in the morning, goddammit. I can't, I'm not recording the rest of this fucking, this joke isn't even funny. You might be able to tell just from the gameplay, but in case you can't, the throwing knives have gotta be one of the most unintuitive, awkward feeling weapons I have ever used in a game ever. This is something you can't really see, you just have to believe me, so trust me bro, or something like that. They have a weird arc to them, like a really weird arc. And instead of going on your crosshair, they go slightly above it while veering off to the left. They just feel wrong. I don't know how to really convey it. You have to use them to understand what I'm trying to tell you here. But even after about 10 hours of playtime, I still cannot get the hang of them. I've definitely gotten better, but actually hitting an enemy where I want honestly feels more like luck than skill. You have to sort of aim below and slightly to the right of where you're actually aiming. It probably doesn't help that I'm a disgusting controller player as well, but I've seen a lot of PC players also echo this sentiment. Also, there's a travel time, so just in case aiming wasn't bad enough, you also have to try and predict movement. I really cannot stress enough how awful these things feel to use, even after practice. I don't know if it's intentional or a limitation thing, but I really wish they worked like they do in other games. I mean, honestly, you'd expect them to work like the crossbow bolts, a projectile that has fall off. I don't know why you throw them like you do here. It doesn't make sense to me. Just doesn't make sense to me. I tried to run servo-assisted or Desert Stormer for better range, but trying to snipe stuff is honestly just a miracle bestowed by God himself or something. It doesn't work. I'm sure with more time I could get better, but I need to get this video done somewhat quickly, so what are you gonna do? Speaking of passives, it also doesn't combine well with NG kit or integrated explosives. Upping your capacity from 20 to 22 is a very minute difference and honestly just kind of a waste of your passive slot, unless you really like having less recoil, which another one does by the way, or being a general nuisance to your teammates. Having more would be nice, especially because I can't tell if it's just me, but it felt like I was burning through these things quickly. 20 is a lot, but it felt more like 5. Now, to be fair, some of that is probably because I whiffed a lot of my throws, but even when I was hitting things, it felt like I was running dry all the time. And unlike pretty much any other game with a throwing knife now that I think about it, once you've thrown one, that's it. You can't go and pick it back up, even if you miss. Some of this can definitely be chalked up to a, quote, skill issue, as the youngins like to call it, but other times, it's just bullshit. There were numerous times where I swear I hit a strider right in its weak point, but the knife just bounced off like it didn't even hit. And I am convinced the hitbox size on voteless limbs is like 30% bigger than they look, which in case you forgot what I said earlier, like if I hit voteless in the limbs, they're barely affected, it doesn't matter. And hitting Devastator or Berserker heads is impossible. It only happened to me once or twice. Even when I was spot on, it just never counted as a headshot. A lot of times when I miss, I will admit it was probably on me, but sometimes it isn't. There is definitely a lot of jank going on here. It's pretty much just a feature of Helldivers 2 at this point. So basically, to summarize, the throwing knives are definitely unique and novel, and they have a bit of utility going for them, but unfortunately, it's overshadowed by the fact they control like fat wrinkly ass cheek, on top of the ammo economy being awful. As well as it not being great for its designated role, and you know what's about to happen. They deserve better. And what would I do to fix them? Literally just make them control better. Just make it a straight projectile with some fall off. Remove the arcing, remove the weird swaying to the left, and just make it go on my crosshair. Also, maybe make the projectile a bit faster, and boom, the pick rate is gonna like spike up by 300% immediately. Also, I would add a special interaction to integrated explosives or engineering kit, making them increase the capacity by 5. We've had special interactions with passes before, I don't see why it can't happen here. That would be a perfectly adequate buff. But you know what? I want to get a little bit goofy, and I came up with 2 other buff ideas that I also think could fit. The first thing I would do is increase the damage against unaware enemies. This is something that a lot of games with stealth do, and by a lot of games I mean Fallout 4 because that's the only one that's springing to mind right now. In that game, attacks against unaware enemies deal 2 times the damage, and I think something like that here could make up for its lacking stealth use right now. Even if it wasn't a big increase like say 100 extra damage, that would be enough to one-shot warriors anywhere on the body, so that immediately makes them a lot better for taking down threats quietly. And the second thing I would do is help out with the ammo economy a bit. I would give players the ability to either pick up knives that they've already thrown, or make it so that ammo boxes replenish a few on pickup. Not a lot, maybe like 3 to 5. Personally, I prefer to pick them back up, but getting them replenished from ammo boxes would also be fine. I think something like this would be helpful purely because of the fact that they are not grenades. I think these can afford to be a bit more renewable, but hey, that's just my idea. Would any of these actually improve the weapon? Nobody knows because this is just a thought experiment. For all we know, Arrowhead could be getting ready to buff these things tomorrow, and their idea could be way different from mine. A question I can answer is, are the throwing knives worth running? No, not really. I prefer them to the high explosives or seekers, but I can admit that is definitely just a personal thing. I would not recommend these. If you do want to pick something from the No Demolition Force Club, I don't know, pick the Arc, I guess. They're kind of fun. Pretty good for clearing chaff and whatnot. But if you do end up running them, at least try and remember some of the advice I gave you in this video. And that's really all I had to say. Obligatory, I hope you had an above average day. I hope the rest of your day continues to be above average. Fuck, I just realized. Wait, it only just clocked on to me. I've not put Bubbletea's cameo in this video again.
Shit.
Check it out, I'm in the house like carpet. And if there's too many heads in my blunt, I won't spark it, I'll put it in my pocket and save it like rocket fuel. Till everybody's gone and it's cool, then I spark it up with my brother. His mama named him Moan, but I call him Moan Lover. And he's more than a cover, he's a quilt. We're putting shit together like the house that John built on a hill. Cause this shit gonna feel like velvet. turtle. My style fits tighter than a girdle. If you hate it, then you can just leave it like Beaver. But in a day or two, I'll make you a true believer in me. Cause like the alphabet, you'll see that ism kicks a rhyme, not your everyday soliloquy. Like Chef Boyardee, my rhyme is truly cooking. Peace to Matty Rich, cause he's straight out of Brooklyn, New York. I don't eat pork or swine when I dine. I drink a cup of Kool-Aid, not a big glass of wine. Or again, honey, if you have time, I'll drop rhyme again.